So along with probably a lot of people in the world, that's what the news tells us, the Abbey community was rejoicing last evening when we got the word that the United States Supreme Court had issued a stay of execution for Troy Davis, who has been on death row in a Georgia prison for 22 years. For a crime where apparently there's a whole lot of question about whether he was actually the guilty person. And then we went and did our meditation practice, and later that evening somebody checked the news and we actually found that it wasn't a stay of execution, it was a brief postponement, and that indeed Troy Davis had been killed. And to me, something that's quite ironic is that there was also another execution yesterday, late afternoon, in Texas. I think, of course, we don't get the news, so I'm not really sure where the headlines are. I think this other execution would have gotten a whole lot more press if it hadn't been kind of trumped by the scale of the Troy Davis controversy. But a man named Lawrence Brewer was executed in Texas for the, in my mind, extremely brutal hate crime of dragging a man whose name I can't recall right this minute, but chaining an African-American man to the tail of his trunk and dragging him to his death in a vicious hate crime. He too was executed and died. For sure, there were not 600,000 people signing petitions to protest his execution. And yet, for those of us who care deeply about the value of life in any form, those two executions are equally disturbing, equally heartbreaking, really. If we look at the circumstances on both sides of the issue, the pain and suffering of the victims' families, both sets, the pain and suffering of the supposed perpetrators' families, both sets, the pain in the minds of the men that put them in the situations that they were in, that brought them to the circumstances to be tried and convicted for murder, regardless of Troy Davis's innocence or guilt. He was in a place where he was definitely engaging in activities that were harmful to himself and others. So to really practice with having a hugely broad mind in this situation, it can be so very, very discouraging, as we've talked about here at the Abbey, to see how much humans, and all beings, but we're really manifesting in this human realm, how we're so overwhelmed by our afflictions, how just swamped by those feelings, and then what the results come to are in some cases just so horrific we can hardly bear to think about them. But I personally feel like it's, at least at this point in my practice, it's really important for me to think about them and to take my mind there and to try to put myself in the position of each one of these people, to try to put myself into the mind of Troy Davis or his family, thinking that one more time I'm going to live and then to be ready to die. And according to the news reports, his closing words were a wish from his own spiritual tradition to God bless the people who are about to kill him, and God bless the families, God bless everybody. So this has to have been a mind of compassion that he was bringing to this moment. How did that feel? How could that feel? How would it feel to be the family of the police officer, McPhail, who has for 22 years hoped for some sort of completion, some sort of relief of their pain, and believing that this execution would do that? And how will they feel for the next 22 years? Where will that go in their minds? So, and the same thing with Lawrence Brewer. What has he been thinking since that time? And has there been a change of heart? Or, I mean, I really haven't followed that case at all. And certainly, so many people were just horrified with the brutality of that murder. And yet still, he too is a sentient being with the Buddha nature, with the potential to become completely awakened. So I think for those of us who really are wishing to practice the path, this these tragic situations give us an opportunity to really look at our practice of equanimity, to really pay close attention to how, well, you know, how in my own mind, although I think the death penalty is really, I mean, I so regret that our U.S. government is still engaged in legal murder. At the same time, I can see that I can get a lot more worked up about Troy Davis, whose innocence, who might have been innocent, than I can about Lawrence Brewer. Where's the equanimity in my own mind in that case? So we have a lot of opportunities here with these things that are happening in the news to try to keep our minds stable, to keep our minds calm, to recognize that this is the nature of cyclic existence. Again and again and again, I have to bring my mind back. This is samsara, this is how things are. And use it as fuel for our renunciation, our determination to be free of cyclic existence altogether, which means our determination to be free from the afflictions that bring about these kinds of things for ourselves, and then to develop our compassion so that we can hold everyone who's a swamp, who gets totally overthrown by their afflicted minds and suffer so much as a result. And of course, the pathway to do that is through cultivating the wisdom that the Buddha taught. So as we go through our day and read the news and read the details and catch our minds just going, oh, why and what and who and wanting to victimize everybody, wanting justice to be done, to really bring that inside and bring it to the cushion and look at our own minds and our own practice and use it well. And for both of these men who died, may they, may all the karma that they have created be completely eliminated, transformed, and purified. And may they have opportunities to meet spiritual practices that will help them cultivate their innate Buddha nature for the benefit of all.